Next, we will see how we can start this My Recommendations project from scratch. Okay, the things that we will need is to have the latest version of Python. We are going to use version 3.7. And also we are going to use pipenv in order to help us manage dependencies and also virtual environments. So we can keep the dependencies of our project separate from other projects or the dependencies that we had at the whole system level. Okay, so the first thing will be to create my recommendations folder where we are going to build our project. Okay, so we create the My Recommendations folder. We change to this folder, and then inside we can use pipenv in order to start a new environment and also start collecting all the dependencies in the context of that environment. Okay, so this is the functionality of pipenv. In our case, we're going to use pipenv shell to create this virtual environment and start working on it. We are now creating the virtual environment. It is prepared for us. As we can see now at the beginning, we have the name of the virtual environment that has been created for us. So we are working in that particular environment. So now we can start installing the different dependencies. In our case, we are going to use Django. This is the main one. So the dependency is now being installed in this virtual environment. So now we have Django installed, and we can start by creating using the Django admin tool. We can start a new project called My Recommendations, and in the current folder. We don't want to create an additional one inside the current folder that is already called My Recommendations. From here, our idea is to start working with a proper development environment, and our choice is going to be PyCharm as the tool that we are going to use in order to develop our project. Our recommendation is to use this kind of development environment that makes things much easier. So what we can do now is to go to PyCharm and open the current folder that we have just created. We open it and we are going to create a project in this particular folder. Okay, so now we can explore the structure of the project. Okay, and as we mentioned, following the structure of the tutorial, what we are going to do right now is to configure the database to use SQLite as the default database, one database that will be stored in a file. Okay, so it's going to be easier than to share or restart the database just by removing this specific file. Okay, so that's make it easier during development, and we will see also later that it's easy to switch to a production database later just by changing the settings. So for the moment, we are going to use this as a database for our project. So we can just pick this configuration and use it in the settings.py. Okay, here we have the configuration for our project. Among other things, we have the database. Okay, we can see that we already have SQLite version 3 configured as the database we are going to use. At this point, we can continue using the command line from inside PyCharm. In our case, now we will have to initialize this database. We can do so following the tutorial by executing the Python migrate command. Okay, so we will execute it from the command line inside PyCharm. As you can see, PyCharm has already detected that this project has dependencies managed using pipenv and has already prepared the environment for us. So we are executing this in the environment for our project. This will initialize the database with all the tables that are basic for the functioning of Django, including using user management. And this includes also, and it's something that we can do right now, is to create a super user that is the main user that we're going to use in our application. So at least we will have one user at the beginning. We will use admin in our case. We are going to provide a no username, and we will use password as the password. It complains about the password being too common, but in our case, we will use this during development. This is not a production, so we will use the simple password user. So we will have now a user with name admin and password password.